Okay everybody, this is mooneydashcam. If you enjoy these videos, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Robert's Lounge, which was a lounge that was owned by Jimmy Burke, who in Goodfellas was played by Robert De Niro. It was in operation from 1957 to 1979, and it was mainly used as a place for Jimmy Burke to sell all the stuff he stole, all the stolen goods. In the beginning, it was kind of more of a regular bar that blue-collar worker come in at the end of the day, have a few drinks at, but it morphed into more of a criminal and mafia hangout, which drove all the normal customers away. And surprisingly enough, most of the people that came to buy the stolen goods were legitimate retailers to put in their regular storefronts. These roads are tight over here. Yeah, to put in their regular storefront. So it was a regular guy who owned a normal business to come get some discounted stuff. If they knew it was stolen or not, whatever, that's not my business. And then they would go put it to their store. Henry Hill, in the book Wise Guys, wrote that it was Jimmy Burke's personal graveyard. Apparently he buried a lot of bodies there. I'll get more into that in a little bit. We're turning now onto Rockaway. As you can see, this is still during the whole coronavirus lockdown situation, but things have kind of went back to normal. People are on the streets more, so we'll see about that. But all right, there was an upstairs apartment that Jimmy Burke used. He was married, but he used it to see Phyllis DeSimone, who was the sister of Tommy DeSimone, who in Goodfellas was played by Joe Pesci. Very ruthless gangster, would kill you for like a wrong look. I mean, there were stories that the guy would go into a bar and slowly everyone would just leave because they didn't want to accidentally do something wrong and get killed. He was that crazy. So yeah, he used it to see his sister. He had an affair with her for it lasted like 19 years until Tommy was eventually killed by John Gotti. Allegedly eventually killed by John Gotti. And then also from 1970 to 1979, Tommy DeSimone saw his mistress there, Teresa Ferraro. Alright, so some of the stuff that went on, this is a kind of famous scene in Goodfellas, but I was surprised to learn that it actually is something that happened. Michael Gianco, his nickname was Spider. The whole scene with the poker in the basement, he's going to get some drinks, and Tommy DeSimone asks for a drink, and he comes back without getting Tommy a drink. Probably just misheard by accident. Tommy gets pissed off at that, takes out his gun, starts shooting at his feet, and shoots him in the foot. He apologizes and all this. He goes to the doctor, gets his foot all bandaged up, all that. 2 weeks later, same situation, they're in the basement again, and Tommy is bothering Spider about his foot. And Spider eventually gets fed up and tells Tommy to go F himself. So Tommy takes out his gun and shoots him like 5 times. Kills him right in the basement, right there. So, it's said that there was a finished part of the basement and an unfinished part of the basement. And it's said that they buried Spider in the unfinished part of the basement. Who knows how true that is because the bodies were never found. Another murder that happened in Robert's Lounge is Dominic Cersani, whose nickname was Remo. He was killed because he tipped off the Queens district attorney on a robbery that Burke was doing on a cigarette truck. There was supposed to be like 200 grand worth of stuff on the cigarette truck, and Remo got the guy pulled over and all that stuff confiscated. So Burke had a feeling it was him, So they're at Robert's Lounge one day, and Burke tells Remo, let's go for a ride. So they get into a car, and Tommy's sitting behind Remo, and he strangles him with a piano wire. Apparently he fought like crazy, and but eventually he did die. And they buried him in the backyard under the bocce court. There was a little private backyard that had like a grill and a bocce court. He was buried back there. And apparently when Burke and Tommy were back there playing bocce ball, they would make a joke and say, "Hi Remo, how you doing?" That's what I read. I don't know how true that is, but I could see it happening. Apparently also some people that were buried there were Louis Kaffour and his wife Joanna Kaffour. They were involved in the Lufthansa heist, which I previously made a video on. When it all ended up crashing down with cops and everything like that, they ended up getting killed, and they were apparently buried down there. Now, none of these bodies were found because when, I think it was Henry Hill that was operating with the police at the time, who in Goodfellas was played by Ray Liotta, the main character, he kept telling the cops, look in the basement, dig up the basement, dig up the backyard. And Burke found this out, so when the FBI was showing up to dig everything up, Burke's in the basement in work clothes, all dirty, fresh cemented the whole basement, and they ended up finding nothing, because I'm assuming he took everything out and all the bones or whatever, the bodies out, and moved them to different areas. There was a person who was supposedly supposed to be buried there, Richard Eaton, who, oh, I just passed the place. Let me make a U-turn. Richard Eaton, who, it was at the time when the FBI was just about to dig everything up, so he wasn't buried there, but he ended up hogtied in the back of a refrigerator truck, hanging. So he's supposed to end up in the basement, but that's where he ended up. As sad as that is. Here. Yeah, the FBI did actually find a few bones in the basement. I think it was like a shoulder bone, like partial stuff. Nothing that could really get anybody convicted of anything. Which is surprising. You'd think any type of bones in anybody's basement would get someone convicted. But that wasn't the case. I'm gonna see if I can make a U-turn right in front of this place. Just so I can get a good... Yeah, right now it's a Jamaican food. I'm gonna pull over right here. Oh, this is perfect. I'll block the whole road just for you guys, just for my subscribers. That right there, it's now a Jamaican restaurant, Caribbean restaurant, but that's where everything took place. Upstairs apartment, and there's a little bit of a backyard. But yeah, so another murder that took place there, or was involved with Robert's Lounge, was William Bentvena. I think that's how you pronounce it. Nickname was Billy Bats. I'm sure everyone knows him better as Billy Bats. His coming home party from jail, this is also a very famous scene in Goodfellas. His coming home party from jail was at Robert's Lounge, and he made a joke towards Tommy DeSimone, asking him to shine his shoes, and that really pissed off Tommy. And he knew he couldn't do anything to him at the time because Billy Bats was a made man, so if he did even as much as slapped him, he would get killed. So that really, really fed his anger at that point. So 2 weeks later, Tommy DeSimone catches Billy Bats at another bar that Burke owned, that Jimmy Burke owned, called The Sweet. It was in Queens also. And in the basement, apparently he beat him to death with the butt of his gun, screaming, "How about this for shining your shoes?" How true that is, I don't know. That's what I read. And then all the guys that were around at the time panicked because this is a made guy. Anyone who's involved is pretty much going to be killed if they were to find out this happened. So they all panic, scoop the guy up, put him in the trunk to go bury him somewhere else. I don't know exactly where they buried him. And when they open up the trunk, he's still alive. Now, in Goodfellas, they stab him with a kitchen knife, but in real life, apparently, they killed him. They said they had to kill him again, in quotes, with a shovel and a tire iron. That's how crazy these guys were. So, yeah. The place is now a Caribbean restaurant. Hope you guys enjoyed. That's pretty much everything you need to know about Robert's Lounge. See you next time.